questions with this is, does high performance have to mean high tech? Lisa?
I think it's a two-point question. I think that high performance can be high tech, but I think that you can have a natural product that maybe isn't considered high tech also be high performance, because you're going to get similar results from different types of ingredients.
Do you think that that natural products are limited in any way because of the lack of, whether it's something as an ingredient to bind or penetrate, or the sort of, pretty much the science? Do you think natural can be limited?
I don't think it's limiting necessarily, because I think that ultimately it's a choice in what you want. I think that with everything we know now, with all the science behind even the natural skincare, that you can still find that without it having to be high tech.
Marko, does high performance have to mean high tech?
Well, not really. I agree with Lisa that you could have a higher performance also with the natural product. You don't have to be higher tech. However, I feel that in a natural field you are limited because there are so many ingredients that simply you can't use. And majority of higher performance ingredients nowadays are actually not natural.
Do you think that you can, that consumers will pick whether they're going to buy natural or high tech depending on their age and their skin type? The demographic, do you think the demographic has something to do with it?
Within the sort of natural field, there's so many different, levels of the extraction process. So, you can have a natural process that doesn't necessarily have active ingredients, and the extraction process is much different from, sort of a high performance natural, formulated ingredient-based product. And what I mean by that is you could have a naturally based ingredient that, let's say, has sort of high levels of vitamin C, say 5%, and sort of a lesser form of that and a soothing form. So I think that the way that you are selecting the product based on your age and skin type is really no different than a high performance. It's just solely based on sort of the percentage of active ingredients within that natural form.
You don't find in particular that your customers come to you because they eat organic, they use filtered water?
Our customers come to us.
Are they hippies?
Well, it's funny. Our customer is the customer that juices, exercises every single day, is extremely on the go, and quite frankly, she gets Botox. But when it comes time to selecting a product of her choice, dare she use anything that has a chemical in it? And because I think that that's really due in part to how accessible our information is today, and how there's been proven substantiation claims that have substantiated the fact that naturally based ingredients have in most cases been just as effective as sort of a manufactured synthesized version of that.
Do you find, Marko, that the ladies that come to you care about what's in the skincare, or they just want the result?
Well, I think every single woman, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here with the woman tonight, but I think every single woman is looking for a hope, is looking for a younger looking skin. And of course they are looking for, and they're not interested very much whether it's natural or higher tech, if it's performing. They want to know that it gives the results. At least women who are coming to my office are really, maybe few of them would say I want only natural product, but they usually want to. But the other thing, that I think we need to define what is natural and what is higher tech.
Good point.
And that's a very important question. And why I'm raising this? Because you would have, for example, the brand that would define as a natural brand. You look at the ingredients, the second ingredient is dimeticone. So dimeticone is a silicone. It's not natural product. So that automatically that brand cannot be defined as a natural brand. It's already not natural. So I think the definition is extremely important, and very often we get, as the consumers, are very much confused what is natural, what is a higher tech.
Do you think that marketing from brands exacerbates that to their advantage? So brands will say they're natural when we all know you can look at the ingredients, like you said, and see that they're not. But the I would be able to do that, and you guys would, but I don't think the average person, the average consumer would. So do you think that sometimes the ethics get left behind and it's just what sells?
Yeah, I mean, the brands are saying, all kind of, I mean, you could say many things, and there are many ways around. I give you two good examples. One example is, I was reading we are 99.9% paraben free, 99% paraben free. That means that products containing 1% paraben. But I have to say, as a chemist, as someone who is formulating, if you have a formula with 1% of parabens, you're loaded because you don't need more parabens, and everyone knows that. Are they paraben free? No, they're not, but they abuse the fact, that they are actually, saying we're 99%. Clients don't know that. They think, oh my God, I should buy this because this is a paraben free. The second example is a woman saying, I don't want anything containing fragrances, perfumes, because it's not good for my skin. I might get an allergy. And she's going to pick up, for example, a product containing only essential oils. But actually, as a dermatologist, I have to say that the risk for her to get allergy reaction is much higher with essential oils because they contain a vast majority of different allergens that could cause dermatitis and different allergic reactions. So I think it's up to us to explain to the consumer, to realize really what is natural, what is not natural, and what is higher performance, and
that one doesn't necessarily exclude the other.
No, absolutely
Lisa
not.
and Lauren, do you find that most people come to you because of your family heritage and the name, or because your stance is we're a natural-based dermatological brand?
Well, I think because we sort of, when we launched, filled the gap between the natural and the doctor. And I think people really relate to that because there is such this movement of, I want things that are good for me and I eat healthy, but I really don't want to give up my results. So I think that they're coming to us for that. I do think it's obviously probably because of my father being in practice for over 40 years. I mean, that's something that really drives people, certainly in the States, to come and to try our products.
Are there any sort of key ingredients across both brands in particular that people are still up in arms about? I mean, I personally, parabens don't bother me. Mm-hmm. I've never got on the anti-paraben bandwagon. If you get on the tube in London, for one, you're kind of at risk of, no end of free radicals. So where do you stand? What do you think is sort of, what to quote, maybe ingredients you would leave out? Would you leave out an ingredient purely because the consumer won't like it? Even if it meant that your results would be tainted or not as effective?
Depends on the ingredient. Mm-hmm. No, there was a favorite cleanser of mine that contained sodium lauryl sulfate, and now it's a huge red mark that you're not allowed to be using that in skincare. And the consistency you cannot mimic with sodium lauryl sulfate. It's a sulfating, sort of agent. But I think in our brand, go back to your question, not off the top of my head.
So you go results first, and if this needs to go in it, it's going in it. It's tough, or results first. We can't put that ingredient in.
We use only naturally derived ingredients.
So. I mean, we're really married to that. Not to cut you off, but to really using things that are going to give you results, but they're not parabens is a dirty word. It is, and it is in the States, and it is here, and I don't use it, and I wouldn't put it in our
There's
products.
so many alternatives now that there's really no need for them. It's there. You can essentially offer the same results without using a chemically based, whether it be a preservative or a delivery system. Everything, even a chemical compound. At the end of the day, it's mimicking what the Earth has. I mean, the Earth is our biggest chemist, and that's going back centuries. Everything was, skincare, what we put on our skin was all naturally derived. And it sort of evolved into this, sort of manufactured way of, incorporating ingredients to mimic what natural-based ingredients have provided to our skin.
Marko, do you think that when that does happen, it's because you can get a better result with a synthetic or with a mimicked version?
Returning again, I mean, what we heard already, do you need nowadays to develop products with parabens? You don't, because you have so many other parabens are serving as a preservative, so that they have to preserve the formula so to make it stable against germs and during over a period of time. But I mean, again, like Lisa said, it's a dirty word, paraben. But what I think as a scientist, I mean, parabens are great. I mean, thank God, you said you have a cream in the morning that has a paraben. Some creams don't have any effect, and thanks to paraben, they have some strong antioxidant effect.
Getting away from parabens, because we all know that going down nasty ingredients can take over the whole conversation. What are the most exciting things from your point of view coming from a natural element of discoveries that are coming up that we can expect to see coming up? And then I'll come to you, Marko, for slightly higher tech.
I think the world of hyperpigmentation, even though it's still been around, I think there's some ingredients that are really becoming sort of the forefront of an alternative to what we previously used, which hydroquinone. And I think that going back to sort of a chemical-based or a synthesized version of something, there's no doubt that the results are faster, they're quicker, and you're going to get a more immediate, sort of wow factor. But
if you do what? Sorry, I missed.
If you use a hydroquinone,
okay.
I'm using this in this example. But
your face might also fall off, which could...
Exactly. It's, again, the choice. And so, I think in the world of sort of skin lightening elements, there's so many naturally derived skin lighteners that are really proven to be, efficacious, obviously with time. And, some of the things, gooseberry, alpha-arbutin, kojic acid, are really sort of are starting to become very mainstream in skincare, and it's nice to see.
Would you say that you would expect to have to use it at a higher percentage to see the result, or use it for a longer period to mimic the result?
A little both.
Could the higher percentage become an allergen? Could it become something that irritates, or is that just something you're going to have to try out with trialing?
Absolutely, and I think, I think Marko touched upon this a little bit. I think that just because your product is natural, just because your product is, a chemical-based compound, doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you. There are essential oils that you can, have a reaction to. There are naturally based ingredients that people have allergens to. So I think it's really about sort of finding, some key points that are true to what you want to buy in skincare, and then, testing and trying, sort of just trial and error.
Marko, what do you think is coming? What can we look forward to next year or the year after for what's sort of at the very forefront of all of your science work and research? And
I think in the last years what became so popular and big are the peptides. Peptides is ingredients which are actually molecules composed of amino acids which are having different functions. And one of the major functions of peptides is actually anti-wrinkle effect. And that's still, I think every year we're seeing, a couple of new peptides coming on the market. Now peptides, they discover that peptides can do also other work. But if you look, actually, it's very interesting because these sometimes, these molecules, they're not natural because they're made in a lab. We have to make them in a lab. But at the same time, these molecules are mimicking certain functions in the body that actually we are losing with the time. So in a way, in a most natural way, replacing what we lost during aging process.
how much thought goes into both your brands when you're making new products? So do you listen to your consumer? Does your client tell you what they want? Do you follow trends? Or do you think, I'd really like to make this, and then do it purely for selfish reasons and then think, well, it'll probably sell?
I think it's a combo of all of those, probably for us in being a new young brand. But with 40 years of a dermatologist behind us, so we have a lot of the research has been done, and my father's always looking for new ingredients and writing about them. But we do listen to what people are looking for, what our consumer is looking for, and we also secretly, of course, if I'm we're working on some new products for 2 years out, and there's something that I really want made, and I went and I said, listen, this is what I want it. I would use it. I think my clients would use it. I know customers will use it. So I would say that it's a mix.
I think ultimately, though, the DNA in Goldfaden MD is the fact that everything is sort of birthed out of the reasons that women are coming to see their dermatologist. So there is an element of reason for being, and it has to result back into, the DNA of the brand and where we stand just in offering, problem solutions to skincare.
And would you be tempted if you were in the office with your father and your NPD team and your that's new product development, went into lingo then. If you were in the office with your team and you were told, God, this ingredient is amazing and it is proven to reverse the signs of aging and here's all the in vivo testing and da-da-da-da-da, but it was a synthetic, what would you do? Would you be tempted?
I'm deferring that.
Sure, but I think the approach that we take is really about finding the most effective solution in a naturally based form that can, mimic the results and vice versa. And it's not part of our brand. So, no, we would search for an alternative and, concoct some sort of, delivery system or combination of ingredients that offered a similar or same result.
Okay, we're going to run out of time, so I have 2 questions that are off the chart. You haven't got these. Marko, what's your favourite natural organic product?
Gosh.
And you can't say anything from Goldfaden because that would just muddy the waters.
Natural, organic.
Okay, organic. All natural, but one that you know is genuinely natural, not something that says,
Did you say 100% natural?
Okay, 100%.
I don't know one single 100% natural product.
What's the best product that you would find?
At Space NK?
No, I was going to actually throw out something like Whole Foods.
I don't know, Caroline. Honestly, I'm not on top of my mind that I would know, some completely natural product that I would say, I don't.
So you're a high-tech dude.
It's not. I would buy also. If I have a product that I don't care. As Lisa said before, if I'm convinced, if I know that it works, and works for me, I don't mind whether it's natural or high tech. It's like temperature. But I don't. I'm not in that field because I'm not in.
Yeah, everything you use is
so.
Lisa, favorite high-tech product? Don't lie.
It's so hard. I have one.
Dish.
I really actually recently, because I was sampled at Space NK, I got a little hooked on a Natura eye product, and I'm loving it.
So you're going to try and mimic it for Goldfaden?
Well, no, because Bright Eyes is like perfect in itself.
Then why are you using Natural Visa?
I tried it. It was, I like it actually during the day. It's the diamond line, so it has a little bit more of like an iridescence, and I like the way it feels. Okay.
Okay. Did you like the silicone? Because it's got silicone.
Yes, and it made me. I took another look at that brand after I was sampled that for sure.
Lauren, you've had plenty of time to prep. What's your favourite high-tech brand? Don't lie to the Hirons.
I like a glycolic peel.
By anyone in particular, or just you like to go for a secret glycolic peel?
Glycolic peels.
This one will try anything on her face.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding you.
I'm a beauty junkie at heart, so.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Questions? Don't be shy, people. Come on, they're lovely. No? No questions?
I've got a question. How much, when you say that it's scientifically tested in a beauty product, when they say that in the medical world, it's gone through clinical trials, you know what that means? What does it mean in the beauty world?
I'll preempt this one because we've had recent debates about the difference between in vitro testing and in vivo testing. I don't know which ones you do, so I'm coming completely from a vague angle. I think it's really important that brands say which is which. In vitro is in a petri dish in a lab with a piece of skin that's been manufactured or however you want to do it, and in vivo has actually been tested on a real life human being that breathes and walks and talks, and that to me is how I look at it. I don't know if you guys have a different view on what you think clinical testing, how it varies.
There are third-party companies that it's a non-biased sort of group that what happens is you send them a slew of different products and they're sent out to an array of different people. And there's sort of it's a dual element, like Caroline was saying. There's a lab component to the testing, and there's also a clinical trial where it's, a hands-on piece of using the product for, I think it's 28 days or however many days you want to test the trial period for.
Is it subjective or is it measured like you were talking earlier?
This, what you're explaining, is a self-assessment, so it's a subjective testing.
You would say you would use.
Well, I think, subjective testing is very important because it's give to the brand. Subjective testing is giving you, you don't want to create the most wonderful product that you think end up a most wonderful product because it's performing, but the women don't like the touch, don't like the smell, don't have other elements that you don't. So self-assessment is extremely important, but objective testing is, objective testing is really showing the efficacy of the product. Because I'm sure that if I give 100 samples to a random group, they will give me, certain opinion. But if I give 100 samples to friends of mine, I don't think anyone is going to be so nasty to tell me, Marko, your cream stinks and I don't like it. So it's
I would.
Therefore, but I think this subjective testing is really necessary. Now, what is the objective testing is also the question. Is the objective testing, how you conduct objective testing is another way. You could use the cream for 28 days where the client will apply every night the cream. Now, I might apply a small amount in a way. The other one might apply completely different way. So you have to take all these things to make sure that it's properly conducted. And actually, if you want to have a really answer, first of all, you have to have a large sample group. When I say large sample group, to have a statistical significance, we say you need at least 15 patients. But the bigger group, more chances that you're going to get the real result. And then you would have to do something which we call a randomized controlled trial. A randomized trial means that the women are divided in two groups. One group will use the cream, and the second will use the same cream, but without active ingredients, which is called placebo. And you don't know. I don't know even as an investigator in which group you are. You use for 28 days. We measure you before and after 28 days, subjective with the laser profilometry, measure the depths of wrinkles, everything. And then when we got the results, we opened the envelopes and see in which group you were. And the computer actually did this randomization. That's
We don't do that on our final formulations. There's another element to this that I think, Marko, you would agree with too, is that there's objective testing with all the raw ingredients. So you actually have the data in its raw form as well. So there are a lot of different layers of testing that gets done through the process of formulations.
I think it's, in answer to your question, it's much harder as well that I can speak to, because I don't have a brand, but for smaller brands to do the really expensive testing, because it's really expensive. Doesn't mean it's less safe, because I would assume, for example, that a smaller brand that is making a product, you have a whole history of clinical testing, so you'll know if anything you're going to use in that product is possibly causes allergies, or you'll know about parabens or whatever. What you won't, in some cases, be able to do is do the in vivo testing and the long-term clinical trials, because they're too expensive. But there's also the bigger companies are guilty of it, and there's not really anyone that sells here, so it's okay, everyone can relax. But if you look in a magazine, for example, and it says out of a survey of 123 women, 84% said they would use this product again. Well, that to me is the lamest kind of testing. It's pretty pointless. It shouldn't even be in there to my mind, because all it's telling you is that 84% of 123 women said that they quite like the cream. But you don't know who they tested it on. They could have given a really expensive cream that's really active to someone who's always used something you would buy in a chemist or a supermarket, is the easiest way of saying it without being indiscreet. So I think it's dependent on, I would check the size of the brand, and I personally would give a little room to a smaller brand. I wouldn't necessarily not trust them just because they hadn't done the clinical trials, because it's an incredibly expensive process.
But in all honesty, I think the things are changing in the last couple of years, and I don't know how many people are aware from this July, every single company in Europe was marketing and selling the products to Europe need to report the product and notify the product to the European Commission. that was something, that's a big deal, for majority of the companies, because this is the first time that the company need to do the proper safety assessment. And it's a huge job also now for the Commission, because you will see probably in the next 6 months to 1 year, many companies will disappear. Why? Because advertising people from the trading standards would start removing the products because they are not notified with the European Commission, or they contain ingredients which are prohibited in Europe. And there are plenty of products when you go to the stores containing prohibited ingredients. It's good that we finally started with this process, because I feel someone like a skin cancer expert, skin is our largest organ. Why should we treat it in any other way, from any other organ? So I feel that all testing needs to be done properly, and the skin care one day should be treated the same way like we treat pharmaceuticals. But maybe I'm expecting too much. I mean, that's my goal for my brand. But I think at least we achieved in Europe now that people need to notify, and they need to take the toxicologist. The toxicologist needs to do the safety report. And if they have one bad ingredient, the toxicologist will tell them you have this bad ingredient, which is, On the other hand, we were speaking before, do really people want to look at these clinical results? If I have to compete with my amazing clinical results with marketing potential of Chanel, who is putting Marilyn Monroe using, number this or that, or we're talking before, one tweet for Lady Gaga. Do we care what we have in our products if Lady Gaga tweet? You have sales, enormous sales. And that's what, eventually, people are sometimes, they're not going to look. Professor Marko is a professor treating cancer and doing serious research and publishing in American Journal of Dermatology. Or her father is doing this or that. It's irrelevant.
Right.
Kim Kardashian is using the product. She has an amazing skin. And, it's like Lady Gaga is having these amazing results. This is amazing. We're buying. Who cares about the results?
Any questions?
I've got one. You talked about ingredients and fashions and ingredients. But is there in the last 5 years or so an ingredient that is a real miracle breakthrough, a proper breakthrough that we should all be looking for when we're buying a product? What do you say?
Lisa, Lauren?
I think that hyaluronic acid is not necessarily a breakthrough. Necessarily, we produce it as humans, and as we age, we produce a lot less of it. And when you place it topically, it has tremendous anti-aging benefits. I agree with Marko on sort of the peptide blend. And I think that you will see from the natural world the naturally based ingredients that have been tested diligently on really providing extraordinary results. And they're any sort of basic elements. I think that some of the best age aggressor ingredients come from the sea in seaweed form, and plant and fruit extracts. So
Marko, anything that's like the killer must-have ingredient if you're going to call yourself anti-aging?
Did you really change things?
Do you think that you aged in the last 5 years?
Oh, God, yeah.
I think that answers your question. I think it's all about expectations. It's like, what do we expect? Is my cream or her cream going to stop aging? No, it's not. It's going to slow down a premature skin aging. It's going to look us feel better, plump the skin, hydrate the skin.
And a feel-good factor.
And a feel-good factor. But we need to be very objective. It's like that the creams can do so much. They can take care of skin. I mean, extremely important. But we can't expect the miracles. And I'm always saying there's no miracle cream. I wish I saw the miracle cream. And each time when a woman coming in my office, I said, I have this miracle cream. My question is, and what are you doing in my office? If you have a miracle cream. I think creams are, don't understand me wrongly, I think creams are extremely important. Skincare is extremely important because the women I saw in my office who are using regularly good skincare and regular skincare, no question having much younger, much better skin and complexion comparing to women who are not regulars using bad products and so on. But if we could be realistic, about what and how much we can achieve.
Thank you very much for coming and asking
Thank you.
questions and getting involved. Done.